I am so excited to welcome the one and only wonderful Linneah to the podcast. Thank you for being here.
Aw, thanks for having me.
Welcoming. Oh, sorry, what?
That was a nice warm welcoming.
Well, good. I'm glad. And also, I did not tell you this when we chatted the other day, but I have a top 20 list of like dream guests that I've been building since last year. And you're on my top 20 list.
I'm on your dream guest? That's crazy.
It's funny because right around, I found you last year on TikTok. And I started my podcast last April, and I put together like my dream guest list when I actually would get the balls to ask people. Yeah. So you've been on the list. So
wow. You manifested me on the show. This is awesome.
Really did. I'm so glad. See, this is why you need people that get it. Cause some people are like, holy shit, that's creepy. But
I love being manifested into other people's lives. Like that's so fun.
I'm so grateful. So I'm going to stop like fangirling. I already did that in the intro. So before we get started, for the people who don't know you and your wonderful presence, who are you? What do you do? And let's get started.
Well, I am a queer music artist, and I write and produce all my own music. And I've been releasing music for about 4 years now. And I kind of went viral on TikTok for a Christmas song a few years ago, or 2 Christmases ago. And ever since, I've just been growing a lot, and that's been great. And my story is how I rebuilt my life from rock bottom, one song at a time. And that's what I've been doing. So a lot of my music is geared towards my relationships with some not so great people, and then also with myself too, and just kind of telling people, like, bringing them along for the journey of what is mental health, you know. So that's kind of me in a nutshell. It's been 2020 living quarantine in Los Angeles, and experience it one day at a time, really.
I love that. And the thing that stands out, I mean, I say this all the time. No one is obligated to your story. No one is obligated to know my story. But I just think it's so cool that when people get that itch, that they're like, no, all right, I can't, if I have the drive to share it, I'm going to share it. And you impact so many lives. And I just think that's so cool. We talked a little bit about this the other day, but let's start with the introduction. So I'm going to let Linneah do her thing. But this song is essentially a song about the relationship, right? Because we all kind of have like the thing, as far as I interpreted it. If I'm wrong, you can tell me I'm wrong. But like we have the relationship. Mine was when I was 17, and that's the thing that like tipped me over. But this song is the most intense, raw, best thing ever. So let's start there.
The introduction. So the introduction is the first song on my album called The Roommate. And The Roommate is basically the little story, and not even too in depth. I realize now how much I held back, like even making it, but it's an introduction to what happened, the event, as me and my therapist call it, the event that kind of really broke me, really. And it's about how my girlfriend that I was dating for 6 years was having an affair with my brother, and I found out. And in that moment, in like that split moment of when I found out, it was like I felt a shift internally, externally, like everything shifted, and everything I'd known and who I'd known in myself at the time was gone. Like it was gone. It like emptied, it cleared, it deleted. And I felt so lost, so empty, so broken, so like, I didn't know what to do. I didn't know who to believe. That event triggered so much trauma in me. And so the introduction kind of explains like that. And I was going through it when I made it. So I tell a lot in that of what happened in the beginning of that song. So And then there's like the voice memo that I had actually sent to like my brother, because I was pretty crazy at the time, and I was sending them like voice memos, and I was trying to like harass them, I guess, as much as possible to make them feel guilty of what, like, you know, reminded them like in text messages. I'm sure they blocked me. I was like, you can't block me. And, you know, just, you can't escape this. Like, you have to suffer for what you've done. And that's what all I wanted them to feel at the moment, was the suffering that I was feeling. So I eventually at one point stopped and was like, I have to let it go, like my time and energy into talking to them and fuel this into making music. I was like, I don't know how else to, like, because I wasn't going to therapy for a while after this event. And I was just trying to self cope, I guess. And so I was literally just like, I don't know, I can't put this energy into you anymore, but I need to put it somewhere because it's building up every day, every second. And so I had just put all my money into a recording studio, and I lived there literally because I was living with my brother. So I had nowhere else to go. And so I would stay at the studio, and then I like stay with family and friends. And that's it. I would just live there, and I made The Roommate and a ton of other music. And I was just like, it saved my life because I didn't know what else to do. You know, all that anger, all that hurt. Yeah, I could pour it into stuff and say what I wanted to say, you know, and I said it in a lot of songs now. But yeah, that's the gist of it.
There's so much, but the thing that you said that there was a point where you realized that you didn't want to put your time and energy into them anymore. You needed to like do something better for you. And that's something that anyone who experiences abuse, whether it's physical or not, I'm really big on the fact physical abuse is not the only form of abuse, but like when you go through those things, you reach that point where it's like, you want them to suffer, but you realize that you need to put you first because it's not hurting you. What was that transition like, and how has that been for you as you've been moving forward?
So the way that I picture it, and I do say it in my song, so the album starts with the introduction, which is super dark, and that's kind of like how I wanted it to play out. So if you listen to the album from start to finish, you kind of hear the stages of grief. And so at the end, I have this like perseverance song, which is called Here and Now. And it's basically like, yeah, I'm going through a lot of shit. Like, I know, like, I got that, but I know that if I pour the gas on my fire, which is what I say in one of my lyrics, and that's how I visioned it in my head for some reason. Like, that was the thing. I don't know, maybe if I had read a book or something, or it came from somewhere, but the imagery of, I have the gas canister and I'm making your fucking flames just like bright. You're getting attention, you're getting what you want, you're the narcissist here, like, this is what you want, you love this, I'm pining after your attention still. And I was like, I'm feeding you. And I was like, ew. Like, I'm done here. Like, I no, like, you've proven to me, both of you, who you truly are, how you truly think, and what you truly think about me. And then I started to realize, like, you know, through these like messages that I was sending them and whatever, I was like, oh, I'm only making this better for you. like this is what you still want. You want me. What is the worst thing I actually could do to you? And I was like, forget you. That is the worst thing that could happen for you as a narcissist. And I was like, all right, it's done. And I was like, from here on, I'm not going to pour this gas on you. I'm going to pour it all over myself every freaking day that I wake up. And I was like, I don't know, if I do this, eventually I might feel better. And I had no idea where this was going to go, but I just knew that I had to turn it around and just be like, let's see how this goes. Cause I knew that I was powerful, and I knew that I was crazy. And like, I had this intensity. I'm a very intense person. And I was like, but I'm draining myself for something that's like, there's no change. There's not going to be a change. Like, what I could desire most of all is still never going to be like enough, you know, like what I desire, like, from them. But what I desire for myself, I feel like could win, because what do you want? You want to see me crumble. You want to see me sad and miss you, and like the truth of I'm not the same without you, and I, no one else loved me as much as you love me, or whatever, all that narcissist, verbiage. And when I take that away from you, like, I know that's what's gonna actually probably hurt you more than anything, is me thriving without you, you know? And so that's what I did day by day.
There is so much. Like, I'm not going to drop my mic because I can't afford to buy a new one. But if y'all take nothing else away from anything you ever listen to on this podcast, what she just said, that by feeding the attention, you're giving them what they want. And it sucks. Like, that realization sucks to like have to, because the biggest thing that for me was realizing I have to heal from something that I didn't ask for.
Yeah.
It's not fair. And that's not right.
It was not fair. That was so hard for me. Every day was, I did nothing here. Like, not like necessarily victim mentality, but genuinely, like, I couldn't have even fathomed something that would make you this angry to do. Like, I was such a good sister. Like, me and my brother were so close. He literally raised me. So like, it was dark and traumatic for me to such an extent. And then like my ex, who I had been dating for 6 years, but we had been friends for 12, 15 years. Like, we had been childhood friends. So it was like, and I mean, my brother fucking grew up around us. I'm sorry, I don't know if I can cuss. Grew up around us.
You're good. We're all adults.
And yeah, so like the fact that like, he had been around like us as kids and all that, like, I don't know, it really messed with my psyche so bad because of all of the things, like, and yeah, it's a lot. There's a lot of details that people have yet to learn, like that. Like, a lot of people don't even know, like, my brother was like, and I were so close. Like, it wasn't just like a little betrayal. Like, it was a deeply rooted, well planned out, that, like, I'm almost positive the affair had been going on for a year, but from evidence, it might have been going on the whole time here and there, or a lot longer than a year. Because I found out by grabbing his phone, and he had fallen asleep, passed out drunk with his phone on his face, and Snapchat was open. And so I was like, what is that noise? And they had come home from the bar drunk that night, but we were all really close. So it was not something that like stuck out. Like, I wasn't like, oh, like, of course, like, that's weird. Like, why are you guys going out and drinking? Like, we all hung out. Like, I'd go out, with my brother and drink, and they'd go out, and it wouldn't, like, I don't know. I had trust in people, and especially them. Like, of all people, my brother, I definitely had trust in. And they came home, and I was just, that gut instinct was like, just check. And as soon as I checked, like, his text message, right there, all of the information I needed in 2 seconds. And I was like, oh my God. And I started scrolling, and like, I started feeling like the blacking out coming, and I was like, and I was real scared. And then, fast forward a little bit, I was just in shock. I went to my other brother's house. I have 2 brothers, so it's kind of hard to telling my story on the internet a little bit, because if I say Nick, because I'm still really close to my other brother. So when I'm like, oh, I'm gonna hang out at my brother's house, I always like have to clarify. If I talk about an ex, people are like, that ex? And I'm like, no, like, I've had other ex-girlfriends. Like, I have another brother. And then my mom passed when I was 5 years old. And so, but I've had a stepmom since I was like 10. And she's like my mom to me. She raised me. And so I call her mom. And even people will be like, that you didn't have a mom. I'm just like, telling your story on the internet is kind of hard, because people don't get a lot of details. So doing these are great. So ask away.
There's so, like, I feel like, and this is not bad. Like, I'm glad you shared it, but it's just like, here's a fire hose of impact Pick one. Just pick
Yeah.
and drop. And that's, I mean, you're already an incredible person anyway, but looking at like, there's generally one of two ways where someone goes through shit like that. There's one of two ways that they can go.
Mm-hmm.
They go either up or they go really far down.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that you chose to go up, not saying there hasn't been downs, but it's just like, now you're just this light. It's such like, I'm like struggling to find words right now, because not only is there the abusive relationship, but there's family stuff in there, and you've had some,
yeah, you know, I have like, telling your story and being this vulnerable, people really, really reach out to me and tell me like a lot of like what they've gone through. And I think that has been the best thing I've ever been able to have. Like, it's the best power I've ever been given. And to realize that, like, now to be like, wow, like, you know, in the moments of darkness, you don't see this, you know, you don't see the bright side. Like,
not at all.
You want to, but like, you know, it really, it's I literally self-brainwashed myself. Like, there's a quote from The Rock, and I think he's in a motivational speech or something, and he's like, on the other side of your pain is something great. And at one point in time when I really like was like, I'm going to get control of my like well-being, and I would run, and I would just say that the whole time, because I'm like, I'm physically in pain by running, which I hated to do at the time, and I'm in so much pain, I don't know what to do. So I just ran. Like, I was like, I can't sit here in this, like, you know, I guess I create a lot of visuals in my head, but when I started feel darkness and feel depression and a lot of the overwhelming like PTSD symptoms, I would either stew in it and sit there and it would just build and build and build. And I was like, I don't know what to do with it at one point when I wanted to get better. So I just literally was like, I'm going to just run. And I hated running, but it just sounded like something to do with all the energy that I had. Like, it was like, I don't want to cry. And I was like, so I just would cry or run until I stopped, you know? And then eventually I would be like, I'm not crying anymore. That's cool. You know, like, I'm trying to, you know, it takes a lot, you know, to go through that and like to deal with it. But I've been on the downs, you know, like I've dealt with that, dealing with it in an alcoholic way and an addiction way. And when I that never helped. You know, it never helped. And my whole family, like there's been a lot of trauma in my family's history, and seeing how everyone's dealt with it too, like being younger and watching it, like I'm very observant, and especially being like the youngest in my family, and then being like, I don't want that. You know, like, you're like in your 50s, 60s, and you're still dealing with something that happened 20 years ago, you know, like every time you drink, you talk about it, and like, you're not healed. You're just dealing with it every day, you know? And I was like, I don't want that. Like, I don't want to be in 30 years from now still feeling the same feeling that like happened to me so long ago. You know, I was just like, I just want more like power and control over my own like feelings, I guess, you know? And so I just realized I had to make a very dramatic change. Like, I had to make a complete lifestyle change. And I took it slow, and it weaves in and out, you know. I definitely want people to know, I think more than anything, that like when I was searching for answers and guidance, you know, online through like people who've done it, you know, like a lot of big people on the top, I'm like, they've gone through hell, like, you know, and you're like, that's crazy. Like, how did you get from that to that? Like, you
Yep.
literally went from like homeless on the streets to nothing, poverty, and like abuse and all this stuff, and now you're like a multi-millionaire celebrity or whatever. And how, you know? And I genuinely studied those people to see like, what did they do? And I was like, well, if I integrate a tiny little habit from them, what I found was like common denominators, and if I integrate those, at least I'll know I'm trying to like, or something will eventually click or something. And it started to really, you know, and obviously going to therapy was like such a massive thing. I mean, I'm probably the biggest advocate for that of all things. I luckily have such a great therapist, but it took me a while to find her too. I had to go through a couple like weird sessions that I didn't like, and I was like, this didn't vibe with me. But once I found someone like I could really talk to and trust and everything, and that was at my darkest point. The day I had an appointment with her was my like darkest, definitely suicidal like day that I was like, and I walked into her office and she's like, what do you want from me? And I was like, I need to trust you. And I need to trust you so much that I'll never lie to you, like ever. And I need to know that. And she's like, well, how can I show you that? I was like, I don't know. I just need to know. And then we built that. So it was cool. And it's been great. But yeah, it takes a lot of effort, that's for sure.
Everything right there, that is what's not talked about enough at all. And like the thing that I love and I'm drawn towards is I love seeing people who show that, because I don't know, all those big people, they talk a lot about what success isn't a straight line, but they never show you anything
they don't.
other than the straight line. And it's like, well, okay, that's cool, but I want to see you fall on your face. I want to hear about how you failed, because if not, when I'm walking around, I feel like a failure, because it's like, oh, they can do it, but what's wrong with me? And especially with the therapy thing. I love that you said I'm an advocate for it, but it took time for me to find a good one. That's not talked about enough either. Like from that's the whole nother story I'm not going to get into, but like most of my life I was forced to go to therapy. I didn't want to go. And I had some really awful therapists. I had a therapist that encouraged me to stay with my abusive boyfriend. I had a therapist that like didn't. I love that you said, trust you enough that I'll never lie to you, because I don't think people understand how easy it is to make it look like you're giving the right answer. And that was the thing for me. It's like, I can manipulate anyone into thinking that I'm doing good. I can say it, but if someone can't see through the BS, it's pointless. And I never, up until this point, because I'm got the balls to go and do it now and actually find a therapist, but that's not talked about enough. This stuff is not talked about enough at all.
Yeah, I agree. And like having gone through it, like, because I have ADHD and I tend to have like hyper focus and obsessions too. When I find something I like, I obsess and I will go all in, and I'm a put all my eggs in one basket. Like I hit the ground running. And so when I was like, I am fucking determined to get better. And, I found like, I read a ton of books. I read for a living. Like that's how I make money, is through audiobooks. And it just so happened to be that like the last few years have been nothing but self-help books for the most part, because it's a big industry now. And so I'm constantly just absorbing like all this information, like, and then so I'm taking notes like too. I'm just like, oh, that's a good one. I'm going to implement that or try this or this and this. And, one of them was like, if you can't find a real life mentor, then just take from someone's life that you admire and see what they did. Like, how did they get there? So that's something that I do often, but it's true. They don't show you that shit. Like Tony Robbins, Gary Vee, like, all those people like on the top, they're packaging themselves really well. And it's true, because that's what they're selling you. And they don't necessarily, now it's becoming more like, if I don't know if you follow any of them, but like some of their content has become more like, we do fall off, like, like now Gary Vee's like, well, I don't work on weekends. That's part of it. And you're like, okay, well now you tell us that the hustle is taking time off too, because that's not how it was perceived a few years ago. It was grind till you die. And now here you have all these people, they got freaking burnout. They're not taking care of their health. They're not taking care of their mental health. They're just like success, grind. And it's like, I want to be part of the people that's like, yeah, I'm 90%, I think, is a good estimate of how I feel good. like 90% of the time, 90% of my month is like good days. But that's 10% still were like, no, not today. Like, I'm not getting up out of bed. I don't feel like it. I don't fucking want to. I know that I'm capable of a lot, but today I don't fucking want to be. And like, I'm going to feel my feelings. I'm not going to neglect things. That's important. I'm not going to suppress shit. That's important. And like, and yeah, like so many people show you just like, especially with social media and only seeing influencers. Like I think that the greatest impact is being relatable and being real and leading by example. So like, that's why I want to be more open. And it is, you kind of have to be an open book in that sense, And I tell a lot of people like the truth, like, nah, like, I can do it a lot of the times, but when you have that pressure of the people will create this perfection idea of you, then yeah, it like fucks you up in your head to where like you feel like, say on that day I didn't want to get out of bed and do my run and do my meditation or whatever for social media, but like if I faked it, then like people are gonna think that, and like if it's not true, like I don't post inspirational quotes on days I don't feel inspired. Like I don't post like affirmations on days where I don't fucking feel like that, like I don't feel fake. I don't want to feel fake or give that idea off to other people,
That there's so much. Every time you talk, I'm just like, I need to be taking notes because I just want to go back and like riff on every sentence. But like, one, regarding those people, I think I love that stuff's coming out because they're being called out, because people are like, we're following you and we're all burnt out. So there's obviously, you're not superhuman. So
Yeah.
obviously you need to be like a little bit more honest, but that's a whole nother rant for another day. But the thing that I wanted to really focus on is the fact that when you said, I'm not going to suppress shit. Like, I'm not going to do that. So today's going to suck. And that's the thing for me. I did not allow myself to feel anything for years because I was so scared. I was like, 'cause if I let myself feel, then I'm going to be a mess. And then I'm going to stay a mess because everything is just horrible. But what a lot of people don't realize is that, yeah, you may be a mess for a day, for a week, for a month, but that's still a blip in your life. It's so much better to like feel your feelings as much as it sucks. I'm not a fan of the feels. Okay. My idea of a romantic movie is Deadpool. I'm not a fan of the feels, but letting myself feel those things has made it to where I don't carry this blanket of like this weighted blanket around my head anymore. Now it's like, okay, here's a month that sucks, but man, the rest of the year is going to be really fucking awesome.
Yeah. And honestly, like, I think now when it comes up, I'm just like, okay, oh, this is what we're doing this, or let's get it over with, as opposed to like, I'm not suppressing this shit. I don't want to deal with this in a month. Like, let's just do this now. Like, let's go through it or whatever. Like, it's a lot easier. And I think it should really be compared in the long term, because when I reflect on, 10% happiness is what I used to feel versus now 90%, I'm like, damn. And I remember kind of joking about it, like way back when I when I was at my 10% and being like, well, I'm 29 days. I had one day this month where I felt decent, and I would joke about it. Like, but like, that was true. Like, and I was like, better than 30, and I was like, oh, like, then the next month, and I was like, dude, 3 days this month. Woo. And I'd be like celebrating and kind of laughing about it. Like, because I'm like, wow, I'm so depressed, like I only had 3 days of happiness probably in this entire month. And now thinking like it was a progression and it kept going. And I was like, oh shit, like now, like, so, part of it, I know life ebbs and flows. And without the negative, there would be no positive, like straight up. So it's almost like, I'm like, I embrace it because I know now. I've seen the amazing side of the negative. I've seen the other side, like, the other side of pain. And I was like, so now I just embrace it because I'm like, oh, cool. Like, if this is whatever's happening, then I'm going to deal with it. I'm going to embrace it. I'm going to take my toolbox that I've built, and something's coming. So I just get almost excited for the end of the pain because I'm like, something's coming on the other side. So here it is.
That's one, the best. I gotta like have a little like brain geek out moment. So when you were talking about how I'm so neuroscience, I just get so geeked out on it. And so
Me
when you were
too.
talking about how jokingly you were like, oh yeah, I had a whole, 1 day and 29 days of happiness. Like, hey, I
Yeah.
did that as a win. That's probably the best thing you could have done. While it was like done in like a, wow, the rest
sarcastic
of the day
way.
but yeah, one good day. But it's like celebrating that literally told your brain like, okay, there's
We're
actually
progressing.
a drop of like, oh, she actually means it. And then the next month, oh, there's 3 days. And then it's the more you celebrate those things, the more your brain wants to give you more of those things. And that's just, and it actually rewires your brain. And I just,
yeah, I could definitely get into it because part of this, part of like my trauma was I was obsessed with psychology. I've become so obsessed with learning psychology and learning characteristics and how the brain works and how trauma works and PTSD works. And I needed to know science. I really did in order for me to heal because I needed to understand that like my ex-girlfriend and like my brothers, I needed to understand that like this was not personal. Like this was not like so planned out and thought out and strategic. Like this was your separate traumas, my separate traumas. We were feeding off of each other. We were literally like trauma bonding, and together that created fucking chaos, and explodes.
Yep.
And I have like a firm belief in what starts in chaos ends in chaos, and that's kind of just how it went down. And so understanding them and their lives and what they've gone through and how they've coped really helped me with like forgiveness and closure, which is massive in healing. Like that shit was hard and still is, like it's not perfect. Like it's not linear and it's not perfect. And there is, there's days. Like I don't know if you heard Bittersweet, my song recently that I released. Well, that song was like, someone's like, make an anti-Valentine's Day song similar to Season's Greetings. And I was like, that's funny, I should. But I had been in a conversation with my current girlfriend about my ex. And I kind of jokingly said something that sounded like it was like vindictive, but I was joking. But at the same time, I was like, she was like, are you over it? And I was like, yeah, I'm over it. And then she's like, are you sure? And I was like, well, yeah, like it doesn't trigger me. I don't feel anger. Like for me, it's comical, dark humor. And I was like, but I don't know, like maybe that's my sense of like this creation, because you kind of want the people who've like wronged you and harmed you and stuff to learn their lessons, and in order, I'll never know truly because like I'll never contact her and I don't talk to my brother, so I can only create what I think is happening in their lives. And so from a place of forgiveness, I had to realize like I do want you to get better, like even if I do want you to like eat shit and die. Like, I can't really hope that for you because when I want to get better, I truly want you to get better. Like from a psychological and science perspective, that's the only way that this can stop, for you, and you can stop this chaos hurricane that you created or to other people like me, in your wake. And then, so yeah, it's a whole thing.
Well, I didn't come here to be called out today, but here we are.
What do you mean?
I never pretend that I got it all together ever. And that's like, I don't ever want people to think I've got it all together. I figured some stuff out, but I don't got it all together. The forgiveness piece is so hard. And for me, the first thing was accepting that whether or not I got an apology, I didn't need that. I needed to heal. And then the second part is that, like, I feel like it's so cheesy at this point because everyone says it, because like not forgiving is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. I hate
But
it.
it's true.
It's so true, but I
It's
fucking
true. That's
hate hearing
the
it.
gasoline thing. You know what I
Yep.
mean? It's like the imagery I created where you're like, that is, it's who's burning here? Like whose flame is bigger?
But I was enjoying my moment of just hating in peace. Thank you very much. But now I have to face it. Here we are.
Hey, I've been there, and like I said, it's not linear. Like I feel like I have days and moments of like, is that an overrated thought? Like, is that a coped thought? Like, I'm not sure. Like, am I tricking myself to thinking, like in those moments when I do say something sarcastic, but I'm like, I don't know. I think in the long run, it's not something that eats at me. Like, I'm not even kidding. And I haven't really told a lot of people this, but like, like with brainwashing myself, it started because right after this event happened, it was so dark. And I literally woke up every single day, and I would look at myself in the mirror for a while until I believed it. And I was like, don't kill anyone today. Like, don't be a murderer. Like, that's it. That was like my daily task. Like, just don't do that. Like, don't do that. And whatever else is a win, but just don't do those things today. Like, cause it was strong and it was powerful, and the revenge was there. The darkness was there, and I took those thoughts, but I put them on paper and put them into music and put them in songs. Like, I lived out that fantasy, but I had PTSD nightmares for over a year, literally every single day. And that's what they were. It was me living out that fantasy of like killing both of them. And it was gruesome because that's what caused a real big disconnect in me. Was they were so vivid, they were so real that I didn't know if they were dead or not. And so I would have triggers when people would bring them up, when other people would like my parents told me something about my brother, I would have panic attacks and be like, no, he's not even alive. Like, I don't know what you guys are talking about. You know what I mean? And I would have like these PTSD triggers. And that took me a whole lot. I did EMDR therapy for that. And that was like a massive success for me. And, even still, like the forgiveness thing, I have moments of like, they'll tell me like how, he's doing, because he has a kid. And so I have a niece that I'm really close with actually. And she'll say things about like her dad or whatever, and I'll hear like kind of like how they're doing, and I'm like, whoa, like he's doing good. And in moments I'll be like, ew, I'll have moments of like, ew, but then I'm like, no, like this is what you said, like you wanted them to get better, so maybe that's them getting better, I guess.
That is so the words. I never, ever, ever say that I know how someone feels, because I don't know what it's like to be in your head, in your shoes. You don't know what it's like to be me in my shoes.
Yeah.
But I have never, I'm like having a moment right now. I have never heard someone else talk about the PTSD nightmares in that way.
Mm-hmm.
I had some similar I don't know, thoughts, feelings, whatever going on in my head for a really long time. Mm-hmm. And I've never heard someone else just like bring it up. And that's something that I've been really scared to, I think, even admit to myself. Mm-hmm. So thank you for that. I'm like trying to process here too, just that feeling of not aloneness. And so I don't want it to be misconstrued as like, oh, I know how that feels, but it's just validating in that sense of, wait a second, like someone else is saying this out loud and they're okay. And it's okay. And I am someone who says all the time, like, there are no good or bad thoughts. There are no good or bad feelings. You don't have to act on them. Like it's okay. But I don't think I've fully processed my feelings around that. Mm-hmm. And I've never really, I think, accepted that is okay. So side note, but just thank you for that. Cause that just very validating.
I think the most important thing that I really love about being able to reach more people is that, because when I think about my depression and my like anxiety and suicidal thoughts. Like I've been struggling for a long time, like most of my life. This is happiness thing is hella new to me. Like this is so brand new. And I think feeling alone was the worst feeling ever. Of all of it, of all of the trauma, feeling alone in those moments is the worst. And so that's what I really share my story for. And that's why I like doing this, is because if I can help any freaking buddy, you know, they say, be who you needed as a child. And that's what I needed. Like that's what I'm trying to do now, is like be who I needed as a child, and like helping people feel less alone, you know. And being a queer kid, I grew up in the South in a military family, in a Catholic family, and like, you know, yeah, I was definitely in my own isolation bubble for most of my life, and kept so many things like secret. I didn't even know, you know, like what was right, what was wrong, what was, you know, what a feeling was this. I didn't even know anything. I was just like, these are like, I have no one to talk to about this. And so now I love the fact that like younger kids and stuff have social media to even to find that audience and find that like demographic and group of people that are like similar like that, you know. Like how do you find people who suffer from PTSD nightmares the way you do? But like you can, you know, like you can now. I feel like a lot easier, and that helps a lot. Like I think community and groups and like people being human
Yep.
is great, because having that information can change a lot of the perspective. So it could take you away from the feeling of it and the living of it to the observing of it. And you know, I feel like when you observe, you can kind of like rearrange parts a little bit. Like you're like, oh, well, that came up because of that. And I remember you telling me when you had that, like, this is what you did there. So I'll try that. Let me see if that works. And then sometimes it does, you know?
There's so much beauty in that. And that's why I started doing what I do, is because I was just like, I selfishly, I started it for me, because I was like, I want to know that I'm not alone, and reaching out to all these other people and then finding out, it's like, okay, it gives a purpose to my story. I don't know that I truly believe that everything happens for a reason, but I do believe in finding a reason for everything that happens, and just taking that and applying that. So now I'm all up in my feels, man. I just talked about how I don't do feels. I have to go watch Deadpool after this. But the thing that, and if this is just too much, we don't have to go here, but I did want to ask, how has it been going from the recovery phase into dating? Because I know, like, for me, that's where I'm at. I'm like stepping back into the dating world now, and it's a chaos and I don't know how to handle it. But like, how has that been as far as like building the trust and allowing yourself to feel? Again, if you don't want to go here, it's totally fine.
No. I think that like it's been really interesting to understand so much of like trauma and how it shows up, because dating new people, it's so, I feel like it's a lot easier now to just spot that kind of stuff and spot like red flags and like all of this, like, because I'm telling you, like, I needed to understand narcissism. I needed to understand, like, from a science perspective, I needed to understand gaslighting. I needed to understand the words and the verbiage. I dove deep into all of it to make sure like it was a defense mechanism, you know, like this will never happen to me again. And like how can we prevent it? And that was how, I guess. So, you know, I took a lot of that, and it just made a lot easier to sort and weed out a lot of things that I was like, nope, you know, like, not having this. Your standards are higher. Like I set my standards a lot higher, and I just was like, no bullshit, like end of story, you know. And when I went into anything, if it got even remotely serious, I was like, these are my boundaries. Like, this is, you will not, you know, like change this in me, like this won't happen, or like whatever they are, like I set them, and people will show you real quick, you know, if they're going to respect you or not. And when you have that trust and that affirmation in you, like you won't let it happen. Like there's a saying that's like, we abuse ourselves. We let other people abuse us as much as we abuse ourselves. And I firmly believe that, because when I think back on the relationships I had when I was self-abusing, like, yeah, yeah, that's true. Like, and you only let them, like, you let them go at your standard. So like, you know, if it was, my standard was, yeah, you can emotionally abuse me and verbally abuse me, but the second like you physically abuse me, like it's over, right? But like that was a high bar. Like, you know, like why was that the bar or whatever? So I was like, no, hell no. Now, you know, like you can't verbally abuse me, you can't emotionally abuse me, like at all. Like I won't put up with it. Like, and that is that comes off when you're dating. People know that, and those people stop. Like they're like, yeah, honestly, I think you're just like too good for me, or like, I don't know, you know, they'll tell you shit like that, and you're like, okay, cool. Like, I don't know. For me, I had firmly just implanted in my brain that like I don't need like I don't need someone else. Like I got me. Like I trust me. So like I can do this again. If it were to ever happen again, I can get through it. But it won't. You know, like I had set my bar.
Man,
But
I was just excited for a cool conversation. And I got therapy. I just got therapified.
Oh, I think I'm having a cool conversation.
Yeah, you're just over there and I'm just over here.
Well, I don't know what you're going through personally. So, you know, things resonate when, you know, we relate to them. And so I don't know what you're going through, but if it's resonating.
Oh, I mean, yeah, hell yeah. I mean, if it's resonating with me, I know for a fact it's resonating with people. I think what you just said was so profound though, because I have reached this point where I did the same thing. Like I researched so much. It wasn't so, I mean, I guess it was a defense mechanism in a sense, but more so out of not of determination of this is never going to happen again, but more so out of fear. That's like, I don't want to let myself be in that place of being manipulated again. And what if I do end up with someone like that? But I think I've reached a point, I don't know, the realizations that you get are things you already know. It's just like actually being brought to the surface. I don't think I have fully processed trusting myself enough to know that I won't let it happen again. Yeah. I think that's where I'm at with it. And that was just a moment for me. So I'm like, oh shit. Okay.
Well, here's the thing. I think trusting yourself is probably one of the most important things that you could do. And the reason that, like, because I was like, you know, I talked to my therapist and I had been going to therapy for like 2 years, but I hadn't, like, I'd been making great change, but I hadn't had like a consistency of what I really wanted. And like actually made like the big commitment. And for me, like I knew in my gut that I needed to stop dating and find myself, because I had always jumped from relationship to relationship. And after that event, I got into a relationship really quick, probably like 3-4 months after. And then we broke up, and that crushed me a couple of years, like a year and a half later, and that crushed me. And then I moved to LA and I met my roommate now, who I live with. And I felt like I was back at point A. Like I was like, I still was dealing with all that trauma that I had never healed from fully. And it felt fresh, all new again, like resurfaced, because I was alone. I didn't really I knew I just wanted to do music. That's all I've ever really known. And I was like, soon after, my brother, who I'm still close with, had a situation that was really dark, and I went to visit him, and he had just gotten out of surgery, and he had to stay in a coma for a few days, and that was like an unexpected event. And then you know, I was staying with him for that time, and he was not in a good place, and I was constantly in my head, you know, because you want to help people, but you want to sometimes you just want to fucking slap them, right? So you're like, dude, wake up, do what's good for you. You know, do it. I can see the potential there. And I was I will stay here. This was our deal. I'll stay here for a month and I will do what I can to help you in this situation because I love you and I will, you were there for me in super dark times and I'll teach you what I know on how to, start over, start mentally, start getting some shit together. And I was like, but I'm not gonna do this if you're not gonna do the work. And he was like, I'll do it. And I was like, then I'll show you up until you stop doing the work. And if you stop, I'm leaving, I'm going home. And I was like, but if you do the work, then, and I'll leave when I feel like safe, like knowing you're safe. And that's what happened. So I stayed with him for a little bit and he did the work and he got better and I went back home. And when I came back home, that's when like the switch happened in me. Cause that was hard for me too. Cause it was, someone I loved dearly and teaching him, stuff that I had learned through therapy and mental health and everything. And, but when I got back, that's when like the real switch I think happened to like committing to something. And I had started running and I had ran and like started meditating every day for like and taking cool showers. I was doing like the morning routine of like, the millionaire morning routines or whatever. I was just like, it just like switched and I just did it every day for like over 70 days in a row. And after that, I started really like feeling so different, like, and ideas started coming to me and the season's greetings thing came to me and all of this stuff. And then it just all started panning out for the good. And it was like all these good things happening. And I was just like, what is going on? I remember talking to my therapist and she was like, when you went home to your brothers and you saw that like what you knew and all the things that because we know, like, you've learned, you've talked to people on your podcast, you've, gone to therapy, like deep down, I think we do know a lot of what we need to do and what we want to do to get to what we want. But like, there's a lot of voices, external voices. And she was like, you quieted it. You quit dating. No one was there to tell you other things. I had one other roommate, one other person really. And then I isolated myself quite a bit. And I was just alone with myself a lot. And then that's when I started to really like trust myself. And she's like, when, you saw what you could do with your brother, like you were like, I could do this too. Like, and I'm gonna. And I was like, oh, weird. I guess it does work. But yeah, that's why I'm like trusting yourself in decisions and anything. Like, even if you fail, like if I fail, like I trust myself to get back up and to get through it. Like, and I fail all the time, like every day, like way more than I succeed, way more, so like but I just know that like, oh, well, I might eat shit today, but that's fine. I've eaten shit plenty of times,
Well, let's take it back to the beginning. I'm so grateful that I manifested this because clearly I needed this today.
Yeah.
I'm so grateful for a variety of reasons, but I'm so grateful for your time. I'm so grateful that you were willing to do this today. Before we wrap up though, you've got something really fun coming out on May 14th, I believe you said, right?
Yeah.
Yes, yeah, 2 days after my birthday, so I'm going to consider it my personal birthday present.
Oh, happy early birthday. Yeah, May 14th is the release of my next single, Rose Colored Glasses. So I'm really excited about this one. It's definitely a little bit of an emotional song about, wearing rose colored glasses and seeing the good, because I think that talking about, especially from like an emotionally abusive perspective, maybe obviously it is a lot harder for us to identify because it's not as loud as, we've been taught abuse is. And, emotional abuse is very real. It is just as traumatic. It's just as scarring, just as bruising. It is just as long-term, dude. It is. I've been emotionally abused, like in this relationship and through other relationships, and realizing it, like afterwards, you're like, damn, you know, like even in friendships and stuff, and where I always was like, my kindness is such a weakness, you know? And I was like, I just see the good in people. And it's just, I want them to be so good, so bad that it keeps fucking my life up. You know, like, ew, like I just keep attracting all these bad people that are like awful. Why? But, you know, I don't think that that's a weakness now. I just think that now that I have an awareness to it is what makes it a strength, and if anything. So that's kind of what the song is about, is seeing, you know, seeing the good in people and watching them change, because people change too, you know. And that's what's hard to accept as well, is you might have been good, like, but somewhere sometimes people change for the worse, and sometimes people change for the better. And you know, I've lost friends by changing for the better, you know. And you just, it's hard to let people go, because you know, like, you no longer serve me like the way you did when I was in this toxic, you know, mindset. And you did then, because, but you're not, you don't want to grow past that. Like you want to stay there, and that's fine. Like I can't make you do anything, you know, you don't want to do. But like, I, for my own health reasons, can't be here with you anymore. Like I can't fester in this bubble with you anymore. Like as much as I love you, I have to like move on. Or like you do, you know, sometimes it's them. Like, you know, I want people to grow. And if our relationship is like done, then it is what it is. Like, you know.
I probably, I'm not gonna take up too much of your time, but I'm gonna have, I can't, I know this whole song until I want to say it. But there is a line. I'm gonna make sure all the links are in the show notes, because you just need to go listen to all the music. It's so good. My favorite song, it's like my hype song, is Champagne Showers. And there's a line in it where you say something basically where it's like either match my energy or like go, because I run high vibes, something like that. And yeah. I felt that. People in my local town hate that song because I do Grubhub delivery. Whenever I don't want to work, I blast that song so fucking loud. And I scream it at the top of my lungs, because I used to be the person who would lay down over a puddle so someone else wouldn't get their foot wet. And I was such a doormat all the time. And now it's just like, no, I'm allowed to say, nope, no thanks, I'm good, because I know my worth. If you don't know yours, it's your problem, but I know what I'm worth, and I'm not dealing with it. And it's that energy. I dig it, and I'm here for it.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, kind of, you know, it's just, I feel like it's your standards that you set for yourself in every area of your life. And like, what do you want, you know? And it's like, I saw something yesterday about how we are the culmination of the 5 most people we hang out with, or whatever, like our thoughts. And I firmly agree that we are who we hang out with, because, you know, when I reflect on my past and stuff, and I was like, well, yeah, I had some shitty ass friends doing some shitty ass things. Like, of course, like, I was having some shitty ass situations. And I'm like, but not now. Like, you know, and I'm very particular about who I let into my life now, and that reflects, you know. So yeah, the energy. But I think that it's super important to remember that, like, we're human, and you know, people make mistakes, and people, that's how we learn, that's how we grow. And you know, I am only human as well, and I'm learning as I go. I don't know where I'm gonna fuck up, but I'm probably will, you know. And I can only keep trying to be a better person, and trying to be, you know, to learn and do whatever. But you know, especially with like cancel culture and stuff being like so loud, that like, that's, I think, the thing I don't like about it is like, you don't let people necessarily, you know, give them an opportunity to grow. And you know, like, I think trying to understand people more, like even people you hate, like, you know, like, like, oh yeah, I hate you so freaking much. And I'm like, well, you know, if I sit here and I think about your life and all the crap you've gone through, like, that's pretty shitty for you too, dude. You know, like, you didn't ask for that. Like, now that I know that, you know, you've gone through that and like that's your trauma, and you projecting that onto everyone around you is just your pain and how you're coping. Like, whoa, like what you're doing at some point is, yes, you need to take responsibility, grow the fuck up and stop ruining people's life. You're too old for that shit, but or like, but also like, I didn't have resources for a long time. I was like, no one's taught me how to get a therapist or how to find a therapist, like I didn't know, like genuinely. I was like, where do I start? Like, this sounds expensive. I'm intimidated, like I've always been told therapy is like hundreds of dollars. So I'm not even going to look it up. I can't afford it. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And, it's hard. So, if I could advocate and try to help other people, I've definitely helped other people get therapists already. And that's cool. That is so cool. And even just by showing people like links or sharing things, it's remarkable the things that can come from a single little post on freaking Instagram or TikTok and stuff. Like, it blows my mind constantly. I'm like, wow, this one TikTok, someone, messaged me and said like, I haven't gotten out of bed for 3 days, but today you helped me get out of bed. And I'm just like, really? Like, what a cool gift.
Yeah, and that's that part. I mean, and I don't even mean to sound creepy, but I have a couple of ones that you've made saved to my phone, and I would look at them every once in a while because I'm just like, all right, she's telling me to get my ass up. I gotta get up. I gotta get going. And that's the cool thing. And I think it's really flipping cool too. So I do not have a large audience at the moment. I don't have a huge one, but I'm still making impact and making waves. And so I don't want you to, I mean, I want you to go creep on Linneah, go get to know her, but I don't want you to go see your audience size and go, oh, when I reach her level, then I'll start sharing these things. You can impact a single person today. If you don't want to say anything, you can share a post. You can put something up on story. You can do anything and you're going to impact someone's life. And that may end up impacting thousands of lives down the road.
Yeah.
Really cool.
I constantly tell people like, it's the ripple effect. I'm like, because, and you would be so surprised at how small it can be. Like, it can genuinely be like, I remember one day that I was running and I was like crying, and this old man who never smiled at me, I always like said hi to him every day. And just in this moment, I was like right about to burst into tears because I was just listening to something that was hitting me and I was just, going through it. And I like looked at him in the face and he smiled at me for the first time. And I smiled and it stopped me from crying. And within that moment, I started like sprinting and I like got like really high off of like the energy of running and like just like being like, he finally smiled, like I broke him, like, yes. And like, and that high, like, I remember I like went live and everyone's like, I needed this today. And like, so it's just a little things. And you don't know, like that person who needed that today, like maybe like they went and did something else, that negative mindset that they might have had when they woke up switched. And now that impact switched. And then that impact switched. Like, it's just crazy how little things can resonate, And that's why, like, it's hard to tell your story. And there's tons of people on the internet that will make you feel like, we don't care. Nobody asked, whatever, And just remembering constantly, like, that's not who it's for. And if those people are in the stage in their life that they're not ready to be open, because I've been there. I've been like, oh my God, you're so annoying. You're so positive. And I get it. I lose followers all the time. And I'm like, I don't know if it's bots. I don't know if it's people that are like, you're too happy, which is a thing, that people like, you don't want to see that shit when you want to stay there, And I've been there. I've been like, ugh, block you. I like, why are you always posting happy shit, like, or whatever, or sad stuff. Cause, and that's been something I wanted to do recently, was to be like, hey, this is what you see on social media now, but if you followed me 5 years ago, this is what you would have seen, and shown them like all the stuff that I used to post, because like it was dark and it was sad or it was angry or it was crazy, and like I've privated a lot of it because I rebranded like for my music and stuff, but it's important to show both sides, I think.
I hope you do that, because that is incredibly powerful. And again, like, there's not enough people showing both sides. I genuinely think I could probably sit here and just talk for like the next hours and just not even, because
I know I told you I could talk a lot. I could talk all day. Especially about this stuff.
Yeah, you take two long-winded people and you put them together and say they've got an hour. No, it doesn't work that way.
You're like, what the hell's an hour? We just got started.
Right? I'm just like, okay, it's only been 15 minutes. And I'm like, holy crap, it's 45 minutes in. I need to like keep a check on that. But
yeah,
how can people connect with you? How can people find you? How can people listen to you and see and hear all of this good stuff?
So you can find me under Linneah on any music platform, Linneah. And so, yeah, that's all my songs. I'm on every social media platform under Linneah Music, on TikTok, on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, all this stuff. And yeah, if you want to keep up with me and my story, I got a new single coming out May 14th and a bunch of music coming out later this year. So, and a very similar song to Season's Greetings, but a birthday version. So I think everyone's gonna like this.
If you can go, if you for those of you who are not watching on YouTube, I just got like so excited. So Season's Greetings was I had known of Linneah before Season's Greetings, but
which is rare. That's rare, actually. A lot of people have not find me through Season's Greetings, but so it's cool to meet people that find me.
It was one of your mirror videos where you go and you like tap the mirror and you like aggressively shout positive things. I remember that's the one that came. Yeah. One of those came up, and I was like, "Oh, okay, this person." And I creeped for a while before following because I was new to TikTok. But then I found Season's Greetings, and I was like, I think I need to listen to the rest. Go look it up. If you just YouTube Season's Greetings Linneah, it'll come up. Watch your music video. It's gonna bless your life. It's going to.
The Christmas song that's missing from your collection.
I listen to that all year round.
I know.
All year round. And I love it.
That's what a lot of people say.
It's because it's the best way to get out all of your angst without actually causing physical harm to people.
That's a good way to market my music.
Do it. There you go. Get it all out and nobody dies. Nobody dies.
Yeah, I know. There's a song that I haven't released yet that I think I'm gonna probably release on the Roommate B-sides, and it's called Plotting Your Death, and that's what it's about. Is like living out the fantasy without doing it in reality.
It's like the equivalent of going and playing like Grand Theft Auto or going on Skyrim, and you just like rage murder everyone and then revert back to your original save. You get out all your rage and then you erase it. Anyone who doesn't play games, I feel like that sounds super morbid. I promise you I'm sane. It's my healthy way of getting it out. But anyway, Linneah, I am so grateful. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I'm very grateful as well. This was really fun.